Ladies and gentlemen, as you know, ISA is an intergovernmental collaborative platform with a mandate to support the increased deployment of solar energy across its 110 member countries. And as we all know, the energy storage system plays an important role in grid integration and balancing of solar generation sources. The objective of the ISA's Program 5 on scaling storage is to have large-scale deployment of energy storage in the ISA member countries. Ladies and gentlemen, the theme of today's event is accelerating clean energy transition through storage. The event will have discussions around the development of a robust business and technical capability ecosystem for solar integrated storage infrastructure. We will have presentations on case studies, best practices for storage deployment across various scales and segments. We will also have discussions related to the policy and regulatory landscape of storage. To begin the proceedings, I would like to invite Mr. Joshua Wycliffe, Chief of Operations, ISA, to deliver the inaugural remarks. Over to you, Mr. Wycliffe.
Yeah, sure. Now it should be all right. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. A very warm welcome to you all this afternoon. This is our ultimate event for the COP. We've done over 30 events in this pavilion. I want to thank you all for making yourselves available. And I also want to thank the ISA team who are here today for the hard work over the last fortnight and being able to put up a good show like this. Having said the ultimate, I meant it in literal terms. This is the ultimate event in terms of how important and significant this event is in terms of our green energy transition agenda. For nearly 100 years, mankind has depended upon the electric grid for its significant transmission in our everyday lives, be it electrification, heating, cooling. So we've depended on electricity grids. But then the recent blackouts that happened in Texas, or for that matter in Auckland, where lights and power was turned off, they couldn't use for nearly a couple of months. It just brings us to a situation and brings us to our needs to have the real questions and how much we have taken for granted the security and the stability of power grids and the supply, the constant reliable supply, stable supply that we have through power grids across geographies. And it also tells us for power security, for energy security, the importance of technologies, including that of storage technologies, to provide stable, secure power supply. As consumption patterns shift dramatically with governments and businesses, and as governments and businesses also seek to minimize the use of fossil fuels, the renewable energy electrification will increasingly rely upon the power operations and services to energize our grids. And meeting this demand will require a grid that is decentralized, as well as that's something that's smart and of course resilient to weather and also disaster that pounds our planet. The ISA is an action-oriented collaborative movement, and it's a reliable green energy platform that collaborates with its member countries, 110 as Mridula said. But apart from our member states, we collaborate with partners like the EU and, as I would like to proudly say, our partners today, the ADB. And we take this partnership collaborative approach in working with ADB, IRENA, EU, and come together on this stage, a platform like this, to organize events, to raise awareness, education, and the significance of grids and smart grids, and also other technologies through which we work. A successful energy transition, as I mentioned, ladies and gentlemen, requires adequate energy storage, and which is necessary to provide consistent energy across geographies and it requires majorly towards renewable energy and to have a constant supply. Without it, energy transition will not just get disrupted, but will get to a situation where it has to halt. By increasing the power grid's overall flexibility and making it smart and intelligent, the storage infrastructure can improve power quality and reduce peak demand and enhance the capacity of distribution of transmission grids, and help in reducing renewable schedule forecast related to deviation penalties. Energy storage also helps in deferring transmission and distribution network expansion by providing complementary support to the base load and peaking power plants in a region. The most widely used storage technology is called the pumped hydro storage. Batteries, of course, are the most scalable type of grid storage, scale storage, with market expanding rapidly in the recent years, as we have all witnessed. The rapid scaling up of energy storage systems will be critical to addressing the hour-to-hour variability of wind and solar PV electricity generation through the grid, especially as the share of generation grows rapidly as we take steps towards a net zero scenario. According to the net zero scenario, installed grid scale battery storage capacity will increase 44-fold to about 680 gigawatts. Ladies and gentlemen, to pave the way for emerging storage technologies and to promote energy transition, comprehensive and long-term ramifications are required. It's critical and crucial to have a steady supply of raw materials and components for renewable energy. Even as the geopolitical situation across the globe changes, as nations look for a stability in raw material supplies towards building up reliability and security, expanding and diversifying manufacturing capacity globally will be significant and will require intensive international cooperation and collaboration as we see today. ISA can provide an enabling platform and continues to assure the global community of its support for its through its member countries to form partnerships and joint ventures to support the manufacturing supply chain and also fill the existing technology gaps and bring parties together through various means in being able to provide battery production support, overall storage deployment support, research and development, and recycling process development as well. In conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to acknowledge the ISA Secretariat and the Asian Development Bank collaboration under the ADB's knowledge and support technical assistance in implementing ISA's programs, including Program 5, which is called the Scaling Storage. The technical assistance supports developing solar projects, pipeline, and providing innovative financing modalities for the mobilization of affordable finance in this sector and institutional strengthening of the ISA Secretariat. We deeply value this partnership with ADB and with the EU across several ISA programs. And let me thank IRENA for being our co-host for this event. Appreciate your presence, your support, and partnership. Let me once again welcome you all to this afternoon's event and wish you all a fruitful discussion, a fruitful presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wycliffe. I would like to invite Dr. Priyantha Vijaytunga, Chief of the Energy Sector Group, Asian Development Bank. Dr. Vijaytunga is currently the Chief of Energy Sector Group and Climate Change Department of the Asian Development Bank. Priyantha has over 30 years of professional experience, including 14 years in ADB, and he was the Director, South Asia Energy Division prior to assuming the current position in August 21. Over to you, Dr. Vijaytunga.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is my pleasure to address the inaugural session of this event on storage. I thank our partner organizations, the International Solar Alliance, IRENA, and European Union for organizing this event on a very relevant subject, as my previous speaker quite rightly emphasized. Energy storage system is a key element in decarbonization of the energy systems and making energy affordable. The push towards greener economies has seen a tremendous advancement in energy production from renewable energy sources. But the renewable sources are intermittent, as all of us know, and its production capabilities and are affected by seasonal variations. So when the sun isn't shining, an efficient energy storage system can substitute the energy production and maintain the reliability of the grid and of the renewable sources of energy while still managing to keep access to energy affordable. In this regard, battery energy storage systems play a key role. By increasing the system's overall flexibility, battery energy storage systems can improve power quality, reduce peak demand, enhance capacity of distribution or transmission grids, and help in reducing renewable energy schedule forecast related deviation penalties. It also helps in reducing the overall impact of the environment on the environment through reduced carbon emissions in the energy production process, and it generates huge opportunities for renewable energy, particularly through ancillary services market. ADB recognizes the potential for solar capacity integrated with the battery energy storage systems. To overcome challenges of intermittency, weather variations or grid limitations, ADB is supporting development of solar and battery energy storage systems capacity in its member countries. This will allow countries to maintain the affordability of energy while also helping them to meet their net zero targets. In fact, to give you an example, ADB signed a transaction advisory services mandate recently with Cambodia's national utility company to support the development of 2 gigawatts of solar power in Cambodia. Under this mandate, ADB will help the utility to conduct a nationwide study on opportunities for additional solar power capacity in combination with a battery energy storage system to be implemented from this year through 2030. ADB will also assist the utility in bidding out 100 megawatt pilot project identified under the study to the private sector, which will build, finance, and operate the project. The pilot project is expected to mobilize up to $100 million of investments and serve as a model to replicate fast and efficient procurement of affordable renewable power in Cambodia. Eventually, that can be replicated in other countries in the Asia-Pacific region. As we near the end of COP27, the voices calling for urgency of climate action have grown louder, as all of us can see around. Your presence today mirrors those voices. Your endeavors towards creating efficient, sustainable, and resilient energy systems are significant contributing factors towards achieving the climate targets. It is my privilege to welcome all of you to this event, and I look forward to enriching conversation and meaningful partnerships in the future. Thank you. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Dr. Priyantha. I would now request Mr. Patrick Clarence, Secretary General, the European Association for Storage of Energy. He will be joining virtually, and I see him online. Over to you, Patrick.
Yes, good afternoon. Thank you very much for the invite. I will share my screen because I have some slides I would like to share with you. I hope you will be able to see them. Can you confirm that you see the screen?
Yes, we do.
And now in presenting mode? Then I will have to...
Not yet.
Not yet in presenting mode. I will try to do it again.
Yes, it's working now.
Thank you very much. And I need to go back to the first slides because I'm far too far, and I will go very fast, so don't be afraid of the numbers. So, hi everyone. Yes, I'm very happy and I'm very glad that I was invited. Elise was invited. Thank you for this. Thanks for the opening remarks, which were really spot on, because that's what we are after a week of COP or 2 weeks of COP of 27. We have to see what for concrete measures we can take out. There's a lot of support for decarbonization more and more, and we have to see which technologies can do this and how the funding of this can be done, obviously. EASE is the European Association for Energy Storage. We represent the whole chain. We have companies which are component suppliers, equipment suppliers, utilities, developers, project developers. We have distribution system operators, transmission system operators, consultants, researchers. Really, the whole chain is there. And we represent the European energy storage topics and priorities. If you look what is happening in Europe for the moment, you may be aware that we have increased our targets for renewable energy sources by 2030. We went to 45%, and which is basically meaning that we need to triple today's capacity in the next 8 years. So we're really moving very fast and very strongly to this. What is maybe less known is if you want to include 45% of renewable energy sources in the final energy consumption. In Europe, this means the cars, the heating, everything, final energy consumption. It means that the electricity sector, which can absorb more renewables, will have to go to almost 70% of renewable energy sources in 2030. So we need to have in 8 years' time, 70% of all electricity generated in Europe coming from renewable sources. And this is a huge, huge challenge, because it has an impact for the grid, the stability of the grid. So we need to get the grid more resilient. We see that more renewables we install, the more curtailment we have. And normally this means in Europe using a gas peaking plant to replace them. We see that very often the energy mismatch between the generation of renewables and the consumption can be days, weeks, or even seasons. So this is visible today already. So if you want to increase this to 3 times the capacity today, these challenges will increase too. That's what we have in Europe over the day, shifting energy over day and night. And this is remunerated. We have frequency containment reserve, we have some balancing reserve. We see even, and we'll come back to this, that we're cheaper than the peaking plants for the moment. So that's set. But what we don't have is revenue streams for this. We are missing the seasonal, longer duration revenue streams for storage. So we are very good at the day, and in maybe 1 day, 2 days, but we're very bad at weeks, months, and seasons from an economic point of view, not from a technology point of view, because different technologies do exist to balance this over the time. We would have to look further than only lithium-ion batteries, obviously, but they do already exist. So what is happening? We need to have a faster responsive service in the grid. We need to stop curtailing the renewable electricity we generate. In Europe, we have a very strong dependency, as you can see, on Russian gas. At least we had it until the invasion of Ukraine. And now we are scrambling to suck the world LNG market empty so that we can fulfill or balance the Russian gas we don't get. We need to have, therefore, the renewable plants together with energy storage to be the power plants in the next years. These are the ones generating electricity. And therefore, we need to shift it over longer timescales. So, therefore, we need storage. But how much storage do we need in Europe? It is very easy. We have in the US some targets. We have in Spain some member states which have targets. So we see merging of individual energy storage targets. And you can see that they're all written in mega or gigawatts and not in gigawatt hours, because it's very difficult to quantify it in gigawatt hours of storage. And for Europe, we did the same. EASE looked at the need. And this is what we did historically. We deployed roughly 1 gigawatt a year. And we are roughly at 60 gigawatt energy storage today, 60 with 1 a year. If we want to achieve these renewable targets in 2030, we need 200. If we want to be carbon neutral in 2050, we need 600 gigawatt installed capacity. So we have a huge challenge to deploy this. And why do we have a challenge? I come back to this. For the moment in Europe, energy storage is economic. We're in the ISA booth. So in Europe, if you have photovoltaic and battery storage, you see that you are cheaper than the electricity price. The blue line is the price of 33 cents, By the way, a friend of mine who lives in Germany told me this week that he will have to pay 68 cents a kilowatt hour from now on with the existing price structure. And with you, if you have renewables and storage, so PV and storage at home, you pay around 15 cents instead of 68 cents a kilowatt hour. So it's economic. It's economic to do it. It's decentralized. It's economic today to use storage and PV at home. But it's also economic from a grid point of view. We see that gas peaking plants are 20% more expensive than energy storage. Energy storage is the cheapest solution to balance the grid for some hours over the day. And that's what I meant before. The hourly balance, the over the day balance we have is economically covered. What we need to do is to look at the longer term. And to have this economically making and working in Europe, we need to set binding targets, or at least official targets, recognized targets, maybe not necessarily binding, for 2030 and 2050 to create trust from investors and to roll out this technology. We need to look at the cost structure, because in a lot of member states, you pay twice taxation on consumption. Even if a kilowatt hour stored is not consumed, you have to pay twice. So it's not really working. We need to look how grid supportive behavior can be get a benefit. And finally, we need that the curtailment of renewables need to be minimized at all costs, because this is calling otherwise for fossil fuel backups. And then we have practical issues about permitting and installation. So this also needs to be taken up. So in a nutshell, to conclude, we have technologies for days. We have it very cheap for the consumer. It is cheaper than gas plants, but for longer term storage, we still need to find the revenue streams, and we need to allow the existing storage to roll out more by facilitating the framework. That's how we are in Europe. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Clarence. I would now invite Dr. Olan Roche, Acting Director, Innovation and Technology Center, IRENA, to kindly come on the stage and help us moderate the session. And probably you have the presentation before that. So we are going to load it, yes. Yes.
You have the slides on, or? Okay. Yes, thank you very much. Good afternoon here. Thanks for the nice introduction of the chairs from ISA, ADB, and also for the last presentation. As said, my name is Roland Rösch. I'm acting director of the Innovation and Technology Center, and I speak here on behalf of IRENA, the International Renewable Energy Agency, with 165 member countries and 30 member countries in a session. It is a pleasure here to contribute as co-host to this event organized by the International Solar Alliance and also by the Asian Development Bank, which are both partners of IRENA, and also nice to have the European Union here as knowledge partner. Thanks a lot for the invitation to speak here. My task is today to make also a presentation and then to moderate the panel session right after. Thank you all for being here with us. I would ask to see the next slide, please. The slides are animated, so we have to go one by one. So system flexibility is key to achieve the goals of the energy transition and climate change. To achieve a 1.5 scenario, 51% of total energy consumption will be electrified, of which over 60% can be supplied by solar and wind. So what IRENA sees is a substantial increase in the share of electrification as a use of energy. While the energy use is at 22% by now, we will see till 2050 about 52% of the energy will be electrified. That has a lot to do that a lot of energy is provided from renewables directly, and also because in the end use sector there is multiple opportunities to directly use electricity as energy input. Operating a system with high shares of variable renewables requires enhancing system flexibility at all parts. That has been said already. It will not be possible to operate high shares of variable renewables without storage systems. It is very important to build up the infrastructure for the variable renewables. I think we will need about 7,000 terawatt of renewable energies in the system in terms of having the electricity from the power sector in place. If we think of integrating with the end use sector, producing hydrogen, renewable hydrogen, an additional 7,000 terawatt will be needed. So there is a substantial increase of the electricity in the system, and that requires also storage system. And together with other measures, flexible demand and generation, smart charging, electric vehicles, smart transmission and distribution network will enable this. IRENA, beyond a storage report, we delivered also an innovation landscape report that looks into demand response system and all kind of smart digitalized technologies. So IRENA believes strongly the energy sector transformation is very clearly decentralized. It will be digitalized, and you will have a lot more electricity, so it will be electrified. You have a lot more electricity in the system, and that's why enabling technologies like storage are needed. Next slide, please. The role of electricity storage for the variable renewable energy integration is happening on many levels and on many different time scales. So you have, let's say, to manage the storage from real time to sub-seconds, seconds, minutes, hours, and days. And then you have different types of storage. So provision of inertia, you have pumped hydro, and you have compressed air storage. On fast frequency response, you have batteries and flywheels. On operational reserve, you have batteries, flywheels, and pumped hydro. And on load, following time shifting, pumped hydro, compressed air, flow batteries, and on long duration, also compressed air and pumped hydro. Storage located with variable renewables, direct benefits to variable renewables, and then also standalone storage will indirect support the variable renewables by increasing the system flexibility. Next slide. So you see here, what we are doing, we do some work in the context of West Africa, which is supported by voluntary contributions from the Walloon. And IRENA in West Africa has an electrification platform, assess the value of storage in achieving universal energy access through PV storage-based mini-grids in West Africa. The idea is to explore energy access pathways for each settlement in a country with the use of an open source spatial electrification. It builds on the global electrification platform where user can explore different tiers of electrification until 2030. Countries currently available is Burkina Faso, Nigeria, Mali, and Senegal. And we are intending to bring more on this platform because it actually looks very strongly into the level of electrification and what opportunity exists to add storage to those systems. Next slide. The IRENA storage valuation framework is another work we are doing because very often, because the provide energy storage is in the public interest, and very often public funds have to be used to provide in the infrastructure the storage capacities. And then from our member countries, we often get the question, what is actually the value of adding this storage to the system, which is a complex discussion. And let's say we have tried to provide information of what kind of value is brought to the system by storage systems. It is important to identify electricity storage services to support the integration of variable renewables. Then you map the storage technologies which and the services you need. Then you go into the analysis of the system value of electricity storage compared to alternative flexibility options. That means you have to see what flexibility options exist to make the system more flexible, what value can be added by storage, what can be done with digitalization or other, I don't know, pump storage, or you bring in hydropower or other sources of flexibility, and you weigh up the benefits and the costs. Then you simulate storage operation, stacking of revenue, assess the viability of the project, and then you basically, we provide a methodology to look into the option, what services in terms of flexibility and storage are needed. Then you look into the cost related to this, and you basically see in this publication also how you can then assess the viability of those opportunities and the related costs and what are the benefits. Next slide. There should be another slide coming. Yeah, maybe yes. Here is a typical illustration of a net zero system dispatch and the role of storage. You basically see here a system that is kind of dispatched in different ways. You have an overproduction of electricity during the mid-peak time, but at the morning time, when a lot of electricity is used, but there is no solar, and in case there is no wind, you need storage there. Also battery charging opportunity you will use during this midday time, where there is a lot of solar radiation, and you can use it then at a lower point when the demand is higher, where you can add then additional charging from battery charging or from other flexibility mechanism. And this is always linked with the availability of the resources coming either from solar or coming from onshore wind here in this case. Next slide. I spoke about this storage valuation framework. It basically helps to identify the services, the technology, do the comparison with other flexibility elements, and basically then make a judgment of optimal deployment of those options. Next slide. Here you see the money problem. If you add system benefits to a project where you add storage, you have a problem that the cost of storage as an infrastructure project may kind of be higher as the costs you have directly related to the project. So the economic viability on the project revenues and the project costs in a system where you add storage is very not often matching, because there is a lot of aspects if you go project by project which are not kind of included in such a proper economic go one by one project case. And that's why you have to look broader of what is the benefit from storage if you integrate more projects with storage capacity. Next slide. Reasoning, some bundle bits of electricity storage cannot be monetized based on existing regulations. As I said, goal is to identify the economic viability gap between monetizable project revenues and the costs, ensuring revenues outweigh costs by monetizing system level value. Next click. All project only will be, the recommendations, go back, it's okay. Go back to the next slide. Recommendations for different stakeholders. For electricity storage developer, get familiar with existing business models and collaborate closer with regulators and utilities. For vertically integrated utilities, update your planning tools to include electricity storage and update procurement processes for services required rather than picking technologies. For regulator, eliminate barriers for electricity storage participation in different markets, create new markets able to capture the value of electricity storage, make incorporation of least cost planning for electricity storage mandatory for TSO and DSOs. This is an important point. And then, let's say, also include the external stakeholders and the research communities in your thoughts related to the stakeholders of storage. Next slide. Policy incentives. You see here feed-in tariffs, feed-in premiums, capacity payments, grants, peak reduction incentive, investment tax credits, accelerated depreciation, and market mechanisms as elements to stronger support the cost-effective implementation of storage. Next slide. So my final remarks here, storage supports the variable renewable integration. Storage is one of many options for rapid decarbonization of the power system via solar and wind. Its role will be different depending on the rest of the system. Storage deployment will only happen if the missing money gap is there filled. I explained where this is coming from. Bridging the missing money gap requires also support from the regulator and the utility. And there is to mention the IRENA Flex tool. IRENA has delivered a pro bono Flex tool, which you can access on our webpage. This Flex tool can be used to look into your electricity system and to evaluate the flexibility options you have. Thank you very much. That's the end of my presentation. Yes. I would now call the panelists on stage. We have Dr. José Donoso, General Director of UNEF and Chair of Global Solar Council. We have Dr. Burrell, Energy Storage Program Manager, NRL, who will be virtually with us. We have Mr. Hiren Shah, CEO of Reglos Anytech. He is virtually available. We have Dr. Rashi Gupta, founder and managing director of Vision Megatronics. We have Mr. Dr. Rahul Valavaka, President, India Energy Storage Alliance and Managing Director, Customized Energy Solution India. And we have Mr. Colin Steely, MD of Stratcon, who is also joining us virtually. Okay. So my first question goes to Dr. José Donoso, General Director of UNIT and Chair of Global Solar Council. I just would like to know from you, let's say, the combination of the energy transition, combining it with variable renewables in the system and electricity storage. How important is this? What is the contribution of the needed contribution in building up the infrastructure from the public sector? And let's say, what is your take on this, please? Okay, I forgot to, sorry, there was a last addition. There is Luca Traini, also area manager access for renewable energy for Africa here on the panel. I'm very sorry, there was a last minute addition. Please.
Okay. No, oh,
You can take this.
not go. This one is okay. Yes, much better. Okay, thank you very much. After your excellent presentation of the state of the art, what I can say is the point of view from the PV sector. For the PV sector, storage, for the PV sector, I must say, for the whole ecological transition process, storage is key. Will not be possible to think in a future, decarbonized future, through renewable energies without storage. I can say more. For me, in the short term, that's mean already, it will not be possible to think in a PV plant without storage. Storage, doesn't matter what system of storage, must be so important, so imprescindible for a PV plant as the panels, because how much we'll go ahead in the ecological transition process, more problems will have it of cannibalization, because we are a variable technology will increase much and better, much and more and more projects. For instance, in my country, in Spain, the government, we have already 19 gigawatts of PV projects installed. The government has approved this year 6 gigawatts more, and in the next month will approve 35 gigawatts more. Our peak historical demand is 44. That means in the moments or more sun, we will have serious problems to recover the investment if we don't use solar storage to do the shifting and try to go to share our production between the night hours. Will be imprescindible. But at the same time, because particularly PV and wind, we are the new conventional technologies. We are the technologies that will be invested more in the future. And already the market is investing more. We are the new modern technologies, conventional technologies. And then we must have the commitment to supply the electricity to the system with the same criteria of quality and predictability that in the past the former conventional technologies, and that will be impossible without storage. For that, for this ecological transition process, for us in our association, a Spanish association, and in the Global Solar Council, storage for us is a part of our sector, is imprescindible in this process.
Thank you very much for this very good insights. Are there any immediate questions to this we have? Okay, I see none. Then I would go to our next kind of panelist, Dr. Antonio Borrell, Energy Storage Program Manager at the National Renewable Energy Laboratory of the US. Dr. Anthony Borrell is virtually online. Mr. Borrell, can you please give your insight? How do you see storage? How do you see the need in combining the global energy transition, specifically solar, the solar generation, and the combination of storage? What kind of technologies you see what is, let's say, how can the infrastructure be built up to match these challenges?
Yes, thank you very much for inviting me. This is a really interesting session. I think the obviously what's currently going on is the lithium-ion battery deployment is the largest. It's a perfect sort of technology for the diurnal shift and frequency regulation for multiple situations. However, it's a ubiquitous technology also for transportation, and many nations have indicated that they're going to eliminate internal combustion engine sales by the 2030s, 2040s, and 2050s. This is a challenge for energy storage for grid in that the competition for these resources is going to be significant. Compared to grid storage, transportation demand for batteries is going to be very large. So the competition for scaling production of batteries is going to be one of the biggest challenges I see us facing in the next, 10 to 20 years. It's not so much that we don't have the resources available on Earth. It's more how fast can we build and produce and do this. And the challenge, I think, for deployment of storage for solar and for wind is going to be competition for those battery resources with large scale deployment of vehicles. But there are technologies that are getting developed and existing technologies. You mentioned pumped hydro, compressed air, mechanical. All of the challenges with these are much more that they're much more expensive, but they may be interim steps in mitigating some of these challenges in supply chain and process as we go forward. Even if you think about lead acid batteries, which are not perfect for longer term storage because of lifetime issues and deployment, they are, of course, accelerating their development, learning how to do new approaches. The new technologies will fill this gap, but it is my biggest concern for all of this is how fast we can scale the production of storage in regional and global situations where there's both supply chain controls and excessive demand. What we're seeing, of course, is more and more requests for energy storage for across the entire sector. And I think this is one of our huge challenges that we need to address moving forward.
Thank you very much for these insights. Let's say, how do you see, let's say, the technologies, and you mentioned the supply chains. You have any ideas how, let's say, these supply chains could be organized to make sure the materials needed for storage technologies will be available? Is there any thinking at NRL about this?
Certainly we think about this. I think one of the challenges that we all faced over the last period with COVID and global upsets and climate disruptions from weather events is we've learned that tightening the supply chain to single point failures has not been a success in these areas. One of the things that I'd like to see is definitely more collaboration and cooperation between developing nations with resources that generally are just removed and moved to nations where they're pushed up the value chain, getting those more places where the value chain can rise from and more places where we get supplies accelerating through, I think is a critical piece.
How do you see
global collaboration?
Circularity as an element in terms of battery? Is this an important? IRENA works a lot on, let's say, supply chain and critical materials for the energy transition. Critical materials play a role. Of course, mining, sustainable mining is an important point, but we see also the need for innovation in using less materials, especially for storage technologies like battery, but also circularity may play an important role.
I think actually that is implicit in the supply chain piece. We all have to think about that. but I think it's actually going to be very economic to recycle these batteries because the materials and the minerals and the pieces in them have value. There's a concern that we're not thinking about this, but if the materials, if we just take copper, which is going to be ubiquitous to every single energy system we're talking about, it's valuable. Recycling it, cobalt, nickel, manganese, all of these things will have value. And I think that supply chain needs to be built alongside the production of these materials as we go forward, because we're going to strain the resources of how fast can we get these. So obviously linking them into a circular economy is going to be important, and actually I think foundational to making this happen.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dr. Burrell, for this very insightful contribution here to this ISA webinar or ISA panel on storage, accelerating clean energy transition through storage. I come to my next panelist here. I would like to ask Mr. Hiren Shah, CEO of Reglus Engitech, to give us his insights about, let's say, any case studies. What do you see in the infrastructure, and what is, let's say, your take in building up a good combination of storage, fitting the storage requirements while we increase the deployment of solar and wind. Please, Mr. Hiren Shah.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, and thank you to ISA for this invitation. Thank you to IRENA for hosting us. Thank you to Asian Development Bank, respected co-panelists, and my fellow friends who are attending this webinar. I'm happy to share a small case study. It's a recent deployment case which I'm going to share. So are you able to see the screen? Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, Aaron, I think it is visible, but you can go in full screen.
All right. So is the full screen available now?
Yeah, we can see.
All right. Thank you. So this is my company. The name of the company is Replus Engitech. We are a part of LNJ Bhilwara Group. We are funded by LNJ Bhilwara, and we are coming up with a gigawatt-hour factory in India. This is the joint venture. We are setting up a plant to manufacture lithium-ion batteries, battery packs and modules in India in a location called Pune. This is where we come from, Rahul and myself. So this is the case study which I'm going to present here today is India's first fully powered solar village. So this concept is basically to generate and also to consume at the same location. This not only saves the cost of bringing the grid to very remote areas and very rural areas, also it helps to bring the grid and make electricity available at a very reasonable cost for the rural locations, especially the villages in India. So this project is in location called Modera in Gujarat. Here we have a ground mount 6 megawatt solar plant, and we have around 1 megawatt of rooftop solar. And the best capacity that we have is 7 megawatt and 19.2 megawatt hour. So this plant is operational since 1 year from now. And this plant is a collaboration effort between the government of Gujarat, GPCL, MNRE, and also SECI. The mission was, this is a heritage village where there is a very, heritage site or sun temple. And the idea was to make this entire village powered by solar power. So this is the concept. There was already a 11 kilovolt substation. So what we have done is we have plugged in the complete solar plus BSS system into this substation. And right now, though it is connected to a 66 kilovolt feeder line, but we are not consuming any power from the feeder line. We are generating our own power from the rooftop and the central solar system and storing it into the batteries, and then using it. The battery is discharging in the night time, and the daytime when the sun is generating, it is feeding the village load, and it is also charging the battery. And in the evening hours from 6 o'clock until 7 o'clock in the morning, the battery is discharging and feeding the entire village load. So this is the scheme which we have implemented. And this is the site picture. So here you can see the 6 megawatt ground mount solar capacity. And these two RCC rooms are basically the battery rooms. So the reason why we distributed the battery system is to bring in the redundancy. So it's 9.6 megawatt hour and 9.6 megawatt hour in these two rooms. So the entire engineering, design, installation, commissioning, the concept and execution of this project has been done by our team. And the applications we are performing here is solar smoothing, load following, load leveling, the peak shaving, and complete power backup. So not only this village is powered by solar power, but also we have demonstrated a case of how to use solar energy for charging. So at the Sun Temple, we have created a carport. And in this carport, actually, we are generating power using a 50 kilowatt peak solar inverter. We have coupled it with a 415 kilovolt bus, 415 volt bus. And through the inverter, through the PCS, we are charging the battery. There is a small battery system. And here we have both AC coupled as well as DC coupled, AC chargers as well as DC chargers. So we have demonstrated this also. And as a model village, the tourists who are visiting the village are mostly plied from one side to another side using electric vehicles like three-wheelers, two-wheelers, and so on. The best part about this project was not only we have a ground mount solar and a BESS system, but we also have around 2,300 houses. And out of that, 1,700 houses have solar rooftop. So during the daytime, the village is also generating and consuming by itself. So this is the first time that the community and the DISCOMs have come together.
Please be sensitive of the time also, yes? You have about 5 minutes, that's ended. So please go too much over time.
So just 2 more slides. So this is the project analysis. So what I want to show is the demand of this entire village is fed by the central ground mount solar and the rooftops over the buildings. And there is zero consumption, almost zero consumption from the grid. And here you can see the tariff. So the people who have deployed these rooftop on their houses, in the last year, they were paying a bill of around 1,000 rupees. And now each one is getting around 100 rupees or 150 rupees on behalf of the generation which they are feeding to the battery system. This site was inaugurated by the Prime Minister of India 1 month ago. And it has been declared as the first solar powered village in India. It was also visited by His Excellency, Mr. Antonio Guterres, who is the United Nations.
Thank you very much. Sorry, I think we don't want to go much over time because I have a very strict thing. Thank you very much for your contribution, Dr. Hiren Shah. I would like to ask now here sitting on our panel, Dr. Rashi Gupta. She is founder and managing director from Vision Megatronics. She is making a short presentation here. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's my pleasure and honor to be here at COP27 to present a case study which is empowering lives and empowering nation and empowering communities. So I present to you India's first megawatt scale hybrid energy storage system. What we saw today was when everyone was talking, there was a question of availability of materials. There was a question of availability and recycling of materials, whether lithium will be enough, whether lead acid as a technology can take over, and can we have enough energy storage for every application? So there are certain answers in this case study that I'd like to present today to you. So now just a quick introduction. This Can we go to the next slide, please? A quick introduction that this installation is a almost 1.5 years old installation at which installs a 1 megawatt hybrid energy storage system with a combined capacity of lithium batteries, which is about 614 kilowatts of lithium and 480 kilowatts of lead acid, that is the tubular gel batteries. And this project is very proudly installed at the Brahma Kumaris at the Om Shanti Retreat Center at Gurgaon, outskirts of New Delhi. The next slide, please. So what we are doing here is bringing sustainability to spirituality. Now, both go hand in hand in terms that energy is in its transitional phase, and we all have to understand that each and every type of energy has to be stored and used at the right time when it is needed. If you cannot have the value of energy when you need it, it is of no use to anybody. So storing and using at the right time makes it the most effective value for the money that you have invested. Next, please. Coming quickly to the functionality and the features. Now, this microgrid is a combination of two different technologies. Now, why we needed to combine two different technologies? The first answer to the previous panel discussion was here that we do not have enough resources. If we do not have enough resources, the best is to combine the available resources that we have. So we have tubular gel batteries or the traditional lead acid batteries. We have the new upcoming lithium batteries. So the best option is combining the two and using them the most effective way to get your best ROI. That is the return on investment. Now, what we did was we had this challenge. Thank you. Please stay on the slide. No, you can go to the next one. The challenges we had was that we had to run the electric vehicles into the campus because it's a green campus. So, and we were using a lot of diesel generators out there. And we were consuming 7,000 liters of diesel at every given instance, which means a lot of money, a lot of pollution. So what did we do? And we wanted something really efficient. Plus, we had a very little budget. We had very little resources available on hand. And that's why we, can we go to the next slide, please? So we used multiple things together to combine into this project. First was using lithium batteries with absolute active balancing, which gives you 30% more life as compared to any other batteries. We did a smooth power transitioning. We had a voltage and frequency regulation because there were very frequent power cuts. Why did we need a diesel generator? Because there were power cuts. The grid supply was not efficient and effective in that place. So we did that, and then we had solar power combined with energy storage. There are many times that the solar power is excess. What do we do with that? We feed it back to the grid and we get some income out of that. Then there are two types of monitorings that we need. One is a local monitoring at the site and one is a remote monitoring at anywhere across the globe which you can access. And what does monitoring here mean? Monitoring just does not mean what you have generated and what you have consumed. It is beyond that. Monitoring of each and every cell in the entire battery pack in the big megawatt scale battery is something that is important because we need to understand how long we are going to go. What is the life we are looking at and what happens over the life cycle of these batteries. So what we achieved here was, next please. So what we achieved here was first and foremost a complete energy independence, a zero blackout, 100% diesel replacement. We did absolute sustainable project because we are not polluting the flora and the fauna. We are protecting them. We are not polluting the environment around. We have invested in the future and we have benefited the local community around us. Now, how did, next slide, please. So what we have achieved in energy independence is a 48 hours of backup for all critical loads of the campus. This is a 28-acre campus and on 8 hours we go on full capacity. This facility is operational for 1.5 years now, and we have not seen one single day of a downtime. Next, please. What did we do next is we reduced the carbon footprint. We are all talking of decarbonization, climate change, climate sustainability, but the point is if we do not work towards it, we are never going to achieve it. So let us take baby steps. So the first baby step that we took was replacement of a 500 kVA diesel generator. a zero usage of a diesel generator in the hybrid energy storage system, and we have nearly saved 340 kilotons of carbon. Next, please. So the next important aspect was protecting the flora and fauna. We talk of environment, sustainability, resilience, and protecting our environment, because climate change includes the environment. So when we have to protect the flora and fauna. Now, the previous case study that you saw was on the high voltage, and this case study is absolutely on the low voltage. Here we protect the mankind and we protect the flora and fauna around us as well on a 48-volt absolute shock-proof system, soundproof system. Many of these systems produce a little bit of sound, which actually affects the neighboring surroundings. Next, please. Now, when we talk of sustainability, we have to look at the life also. Now, in the life, we have a life lifetime of 15 to 20 years, where we are looking at proposed expansion of this phase of to 3 megawatt hours now, which is at least 1 megawatt, which we are at now. So this is also future ready and adaptive and expandable. Next, please. So what now the major point here for all the developing and nations is, or even for the developed nations, is the cost. We are extremely in a price sensitive conditions right now, given the pandemic, given what has happened with all of us and the supply chain disruptions, the prices have skyrocketed. So what was the way out? We combining the two different technologies together, we achieved a 38% reduction in the capital investment. Yeah, I'm considering the time. This is my last slide anyway. So moving next. Now, benefit to the local community was something that as we went towards energy independence, which is very crucial for all of us, as I said, because if you do not have energy at the time you need it, it's not going to work for you. 100% reliable electricity and reduced electricity bills. I'm very happy to say that the campus at this point of time is only paying the fixed charges and not any single charges from the local grid. So if you quickly measure the impact, next please. What we achieved was a reduced capital investment, because that is something which hurts everybody. Energy storage has to, is not growing to the extent that we need it to be, is because of the capital investment. Reduced electricity bills, 100% diesel replacement, and completely sustainable project that we are looking at. So, and what we also, next please, what we achieved also in this is, we are here at COP27, and we need to understand that SDGs are also important and have to be imbibed in every project that you're looking at. I'm proud to say that SDG 5, a gender equality thing, was achieved because both the organizations, the client who is, the site where it is implemented, and the company which is implemented, both are run by women. So SDG 5 was implemented, affordable clean green energy was there as SDG 7, and SDG 13, which is the climate action, because we have preserved the climate also in this project. Next, please. So I'm really thankful for all of you for the time and attention, and I hope I finished in time.
Thank you very much for your interesting presentation. Dr. Rashi Gupta, founder and managing director von Vision Megatronics. The next speaker is now virtual. It is Dr. Rahul Valavaka, president of the India Energy Storage Alliance and managing director at Customized Energy Solutions, India. Please, Dr. Rahul Valavaka.
Thank you very much. It's an honor to be part of this esteemed panel and sharing insights about energy storage technologies and its deployment from US and India. I'm Rahul Valavalkar, President and Managing Director of Customized Energy Solutions, which is part of the global company headquartered in US. We manage more than 18 gigawatt of energy assets across electricity grids, including 1.8 gigawatt hour of energy storage in various electricity markets, as well as we are the founder and managers for India Energy Storage Alliance, which comprises more than 160 member companies in India. So I'm going to present a few case studies and I'll go through it quickly in the interest of the time. So energy storage technology started really seeing commercialization in US after the passage of FERC Order 755, which opened up ancillary service markets for energy storage. Since then, there are a number of advances which have happened in terms of the market regulations, and that has enabled integration of renewables and energy storage technologies. ERCOT, which is in Texas, is a unique market where there is no capacity market, and customers see significant price fluctuations because the real-time energy prices can fluctuate as high as $2,000 per megawatt hour as compared to the regular prices of around $50 per megawatt hour, and prices can go even negative when the renewables are in excess. So we have evaluated looking at energy storage coupled with grid as well as without the grid with renewables, and you can see the different use cases and the different applications, how the storage can be integrated. And we have found out that again, at the right location with the right locational prices, you can deploy storage with solar in both the cases. Another case study is for New England market, which is on the northeast of USA, where we have evaluated the storage as a behind-the-meter asset on a customer premises, where again, here are the two case studies presented. One where you are looking into using the energy storage for managing the peak demand and managing any load obligations for the utilities. And the second case is where you are connecting the behind-the-meter resource and participating in demand response programs, providing energy arbitrage as well as frequency regulation services. As you can see that in both cases, in the middle chart, if you see the state of the charge, you can see the differences. So it is very important when you are choosing the right energy storage technologies, you understand these type of nuances and choose the right technologies. Even within lithium-ion batteries, there are energy cells, power cells. So you need to understand these type of application cycles to choose the right project. Now, moving gears to the India, here is a project where we were involved in evaluating integration of energy storage with solar for Andaman Nicobar Islands, which are currently completely powered by diesel. The Indian government ended up deploying a 20 megawatt solar project for reducing diesel consumption, and in the initial project, 8 megawatt hour of energy storage was added. But because of the challenges in managing the distributed diesel assets, they ended up facing problem where many times because of over voltages, the solar grid was tripping. So we ended up doing detailed analysis at second to second level data and try to identify how you can optimally size the energy storage system for avoiding these technical problems and finding the solutions. The last one is case studies about at a state level, system level analysis. This is similar to the work we did for IRENA for developing the energy storage valuation framework for Africa. Here we looked at a particular state, which was state of the Tamil Nadu, and we looked at the state renewable targets for 2030 and looked at different scenarios and looking at a total system level cost, both with and without storage. And as it was very aptly presented by during the first presentation by the honorable moderator, we found out that in most of the cases, the total system cost with storage were actually less than the system cost without storage. And based on this now, state of Tamil Nadu is implementing many policies for supporting energy storage. We have come up with a national level energy storage target request for Ministry of Power in India based on similar analysis done at nationwide. And we expect that India needs around 160 gigawatt hour of energy storage for supporting the 500 gigawatt non-fossil fuel renewables target, which is set up by Honorable Prime Minister for India. So with that, I would like to finish my presentation and hand it back to the moderator.
Thank you. Thank you very much for these interesting insights, Dr. Raul Valavaka. This is very nice presentation. Just looking on the time, the next presentation will be from Mr. Colin Steely. Mr. Colin Steely is MD of Stratcon. Mr. Colin Steely, what is your take on the importance of storage, the needs of regulation, cost, and how can this be best managed in the infrastructure? Please, Mr. Mr. Colin Steely.
Hi, good evening. Can everybody hear me? Thank you, moderator, for the introduction. And thank you to ISA and the ADB and IRENA for the invitation. Esteemed guests and colleagues, it's a pleasure to be here. There's some very interesting topics being discussed. Just to give you a little bit of background, I have had about 7 to 8 years in the solar industry, but in the Philippines, the RA 11285 law came out in 2019, which is the Energy Efficiency and Conservation Law. And it provides a very progressive law because the baseline for companies to get involved and mandated to comply is basically 100,000 kilowatt hours per year. So that is an extremely low benchmark. It gets very interesting for companies at 500,000 kilowatt hours, where they have to meet a whole lot of compliance requirements. So in 2020, I set up Stratcom PH with the idea of providing services to this sector. And we've done quite well. We now work with the second largest IPP and we have a good client base. However, about a year ago, a friend of mine got in touch with the idea to start pushing supercapacitors into the market. And at first I was not very interested. However, understanding the applications, the variety of applications of battery storage to grid and power quality issues here in the Philippines, we got very interested. So allow me to present today a case study that takes a slightly different angle on applying energy storage. We have a diesel supercapacitor hybrid system for an off-grid telco site in which our initial objectives were to minimize 50% of diesel consumption. We wanted to be able to automate the genset to start and stop when required. And we wanted to provide a greater life cycle for the genset by using the supercapacitor batteries. So the site specs started with a 25 kVA genset and only had a 6 to 7 kilowatt load. So clearly from the outset, the genset was over-specified. Right, it was already only operating at under 30%, which was detrimental to the life of the genset. The system did have 2 small lithium-ion storage systems, but they were not working as intended already, and they were only 2 years old. So what we did, we added about 24.85 kilowatt hours of supercaps at 48 volts with a Victron Quattro 15 kVA or 12 kilowatt bidirectional inverter and energy control system. We also used the Victron Color as well as the SMAPI Infinity power management and control system. And the results were quite surprising. We were very happy to improve the genset operating load from under 30% to about 80%, improving efficiencies. We reduced the operating time from 19 hours a day to 9 hours. Right, this saved about 1,400 liters of diesel in the first 30 days. And the supercaps provided about 14.7 hours or 62% of total consumption requirements. Given this was undertaken during the peak of gas prices or fuel prices, the return to investment was under 2 years at about 1.7, but now it's close to 2. So apart from an impressive ROI, it also extended the genset operating life and lowered operation maintenance costs. One thing I'd like to point out from here is the state of charge from the supercaps, which is quite impressive at 99%. I don't think you will find that from other conventional battery storage types. So just going over what we find are benefits of supercaps. Well, to start off, they have an electrostatic charge. So they are not a chemical-based charge like other common batteries. Thus, there's no exothermic reaction and they cannot explode, right? There is little to no degradation of materials during cycling. They are safer for the environment and thus they do not discharge toxic chemicals. Supercaps can charge and discharge quickly with high peaking power. We can and have achieved a peak or C rate of up to 20 C, thus they are 20 times faster than lithium ion, right? This makes them great for ancillary services and arbitrage applications, right? But where it comes of super interest is that we can provide 25,000 cycles plus, along with a 20-year warranty, right? So this makes supercaps actually a perfect partner for solar PV, especially for companies looking to provide purchase power agreements, because any other type of battery would only see a life size of about 10, maximum 15 years. Right. So we can actually parallel with solar now and see through an extended PPA period. The other impressive attribute of supercaps is that they have a very high operating temperature range. So places like the tropics with already existing high temperatures, we can operate in these environments without additional HVAC requirements. The LCOE, given 20,000 cycles plus a 20-year warranty, can come to around 4 US cents per kilowatt hour LCOS. We also provide 100% depth of discharge and over 98% round trip efficiency. So unlike other batteries where they have a smaller usable capacity than their nameplate, supercaps pretty much provide the entire usable capacity as their nameplate. And that pretty much finishes my presentation, given the short period to present. But to go to your question, so moderator, there's a lot of complications at the moment. I think battery storage is a new technology that there aren't, for example, in the Philippines, many laws in and around the assistance of their implementation. So, it's also the beginning of a new phase of the energy transition. And how do we come to market with these new technologies? It's not just with supercaps. There are other new types of battery storage looking for market opportunities as well. Apart from having to sort of try to educate the potential clients during this process, we are now seeing tender requirements throughout the region where they want to pair solar for utility scale applications paralleled or paired with battery storage.
Mr. Steve, time is going to an end. Please close your presentation.
Yep, I'm done. But the closing remark that I wanted to make is that if we are having new tenders for solar PV in the market that are going to be paired with solar, we want to be able to bring battery storage solutions that can actually meet that period of time for 20, 25 years as well. So if you're going to go through to lithium ion and even worse, lead acid, what are these developers going to provide? Are they going to replace battery systems 2-3 times for the life of the project? It makes a very tough business case. Thank you
very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Steely, for your very valuable insight. We have now our last panelist here, which is Luca Traini, Area Manager Access for Renewable Energies for Africa. Please, Mr. Traini.
Yeah,
I can give you my... It works?
Good. Can you hear me? Yeah. So first of all, thank you for having me and thank you for all the organizers. I'm Luca Traini, Area Manager, Access to Energy for Rest for Africa Foundation. Just a couple of words. Rest for Africa Foundation is a non-profit organization, is a network of mainly private sector organization covering more or less the whole value chain of renewables, meaning from IPP, manufacturers, banks, you name it, which share the interest of investing and deploying renewable energy solution in the African continent. So what is our take on this market? Of course, what we do is several activities from partnership to advocacy, but also market and technical analysis on several topics from generation, transmission and distribution, but of course also on battery storage solutions. If we look particularly to the African market, we understand that also for the other markets, of course, the storage will play a key role in the easing the penetration of renewables. So let's take the big markets. So if we look at the last 10 years, 60% of the investments in renewables were made by 3 countries, basically Morocco, Egypt, and South Africa. Particularly this last one has a particular interest, I would say, or should have, in the battery, because let's say that if we look at their market, we look at what happened last year, where they're having a serious problem of load shedding, hitting around 1,100 hours of load shedding and of course of power cuts, which of course is a huge problem for not just for people, but also for companies, which of course affect then also their GDP. So in that particular case, I remember there was also a case of a survey where they were asking to the CEO of medium-large company, what is your main problem for your business? It was not access to finance. It was not a regulatory issue. It was not bureaucracy. It was electricity. Around 60% of the company, they were having diesel generators. You can understand how it is affecting their revenues. So battery, of course, can play a huge role, but how we can move, in particularly like this market, how we can move to a pilot project phase to a more of a market approach. I would say there is a big role to play, of course, also from the government side, integrating battery storage in their strategy, in their integrated master plan has to be definitely done. But on the other side, depending, even though the value chain is a global value chain, even though if you look at the lithium batteries, of course, there are, lion's share is from China because the lithium is there, is of course also in Chile, is of course also in other countries, but also refining capacity are mainly concentrated there. But then problem about country by country. So we have to address in a country-based solution. So like in the case of South Africa, if you are in that situation, probably the main issue is the main approach you use is energy shifting, so that you match of course the production during the peak during the day and the consumption in the morning and in the evening. But it's not just that, because you have to imagine what kind of market design you need to do that. Is it a wholesale market? Is it an hybrid market? Is it a regulated market? Whatever you need to put in place. So it's a really complex process. And also, how do you procure that? How do you push the storage implementation in terms of procurement? In that case, there are several options for the case of South Africa giving this kind of opportunity. It could be like a sort of a neutral technology auction with a time block system, so that you can definitely give a space for I would say to make competitive also the storage. But it's also beyond that. How then you compensate? How you then compensate their value in the market? So how do you do that? I think that at the very beginning, the moderator was showing very interesting way to do that. It's through feed-in tariff, it's through tax incentives. How you do that? So at the end of the day, I think there is different roles to play, but definitely a government have to have a clear vision and implement strategy and regulation to push the agenda and allow the storage to penetrate the market. I'll stop there, as I know we are constrained on time. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Luca Traini, for the contribution here. I would like to check very briefly. Do we have any question here in the audience? You have a question, or that was a fly? That was a fly. Okay. Then I would say we can hand over to Mr. What is it? Ajani. Yeah, Ajani, please.
Thank you, Dr. Roland and dear panelists, for all your sharing of the knowledge and experience. We are very grateful for the support you have for ISA's storage program. To conclude the session, I would like to invite Mr. Jeevan Sharma Acharya, Principal Energy Specialist, Asian Development Bank, to give way forward and vote of thanks. Over to you, Jeevan.
Thank you, Mridula. So good afternoon and good evening, depending on where you are, ladies and gentlemen. today's event has been a fitting closure to the ISA ADB event at COP27. It is my privilege to propose a vote of thanks to all the panel members who have made it convenient to attend the event. Your insight on storage, this development and overview of the sector have been extremely enriching for all who are participating in this event. I would like to convey my sincere gratitude for your time and active participation. I thank the International Solar Alliance for organizing this event and making it possible for the eminent panel members to share their knowledge with us. I also thank our co-host, the International Renewable Energy Agency, IRENA, and knowledge partner, the European Union, for your support and contribution to this important event. Climate change, dear colleagues, as you know, is a global problem. We have learned anything from the COVID pandemic. It is that global problems need global solutions. International cooperation is not a choice anymore when facing imminent threats like climate change. Today, we are in a better position scientifically to forecast the negative impacts of the greenhouse gas emissions on rising global temperature. Climate change is not a problem of the future anymore. It is here, and it is time for us to act together. So I thank all the organizers, panel members, and all the participants for taking a step forward, a collaborative approach, and have our association do not end with this event. And I would like to thank once again to all of you and all the success at COP event. Sorry, I could not join in person there, but I can see that all of you are making great progress there. Thank you so much once again.
Thank you, Mr. Acharya. This brings us to the closure of this event. And I would like to thank, on behalf of ADB, ISA, IRENA, and European Union, all the panelists, moderator, and audience for your kind support and time. Thank you and have a very good evening.